It is GP3R week here on the NASCAR Pinty Series Power Hour on G-Force TV. I am your wingman, KMK, back at you. We are here for episode number 11 of the Power Hour. Can you believe it's already been 11 episodes? And we are in the thick of the 2022 NASCAR Pinty Series season. The excitement doesn't stop. We have more racing to happen this week. Of course, the legendary GP3R presented by Russo Metals and Julia Wine. It is something that we can look forward to each and every year. One of the most fun weekends that we have each and every week. There's expected to be a pretty big field once again. We've had remarkable seasons so far, of course. We want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in, and everybody, of course, in the NASCAR Pinty Series community on Facebook. We have now reached 5,000 members strong. So we definitely, week in, week out, we appreciate. We've got a beautiful photo here up on the page of our most recent winner in the NASCAR Pinty Series. We had two races out in Saskatoon on Wednesday. You had to stay up late and catch those events. Two 125 lappers, which left us with a lot of excitement, a lot of questions heading into GP3R. In fact, there's even more questions relating to penalties. What's going to happen for some race teams, some drivers that are in this championship battle? Of course, when we head to GP3R, we have to think about the big change that is on the horizon for the 74 team of Kevin Lacroix, as they will change their red and white colors for blue and white, officially donning the Napa colors for the 74 moving forward. Obviously, some pretty big news for us in the NASCAR Pinty Series to see Napa come on back. We did get to see them a little bit last year as they were on Rafael Lessard's car for GP3R. Not sure if we're going to see Rafael or not. I believe one of his team members did post that he was heading to GP3R, and so you would expect that maybe we'll see him in an EHR car. We're actually going to start a little bit backwards from how we typically do things. We're actually going to start looking forward to GP3R, and then we'll go back and take a look at Saskatoon. So one of the things we're going to start with, too, is our possible entry list. Now, this is something that has not fully been released yet. We don't have the exact entry list. I don't believe it was released yet. I'm going to check right now and see if maybe it was. As far as I can see here, no, we don't have anything for the Russo Metals presented by Julia Wine at Trois Rivières. This, of course, is subject to change as it is each and every week, but we have a pretty good indication as to who should be attending due to previous announcements and also to future events. We know based off of what people's schedules were when they released them earlier this year. So let's take a look at who we expect to potentially be at GP3R. So the Dumoulins we do expect, obviously, week in and week out. They're supposed to have 4 cars this weekend. They're going to have former Formula 1 champion, former Indy 500 champion Jacques Villeneuve in the 07. Of course, JF Dumoulin announced some new sponsorship deal for him. A beautiful, actually, looking 04 this year, a black and white car. Really, really nice, sharp-looking deal. Glenn Stiers, JP Bergeron, TJ Renamoto, of course. Let's add Peter Kloot here. That is a tentative Peter Kloot. Not 100% sure if he is going to be there or not. The original plan with Gary Kloot is that he did say his dad would attempt GP3R, but of course that's, again, we're not 100% sure. You got to wait to the actual release of the entry list to see whether or not he will participate in the number 6 car. Ray Jr. Cornimage, Brandon Watson, Matthew Kingsbury, that's another one which it was on their initial schedule. A couple other races were initially on Kingsbury's schedule. However, at the last minute, they did decide not to go to Toronto and or Sunset. So We'll have to see. This one's obviously a lot closer to home for them. So Kingsbury in the number 12. LP Montour, who's been so impressive so far in his starts. Kennington, Tagliani, Lapsevich, Ranger, Simone Dion-Vienne, Alex Gannett, LP Dumoulin, Gary Clute, Mark Dilley, Wallace Stacey. Those are all names that we expect to see week in and week out. Brian Cathcart, Kevin Lacroix, Larry Jackson, Dexter Stacey, Marc-Antoine Cameron, and Sam Fellows. We did get confirmation. I did reach out to Matthew Scannell. Unfortunately, not able to make the race at GP3R due to funding. They definitely, he would do very well at this racetrack if they could just get a couple more partners to come on board. I know a couple of names that we were looking at potentially, like a Kyle Marcelli to come in and do that. Would be nice, but it doesn't appear that that's going to happen either. Other unknowns, Luc Lesage, who ran a couple of races last year at ICAR and at GP3R. I don't have any inside knowledge for the 25 team. I know they had run out of Dumoulin competition. They had been able to put together a ride the last couple of seasons. Not sure if that's going to happen or not. And then Jocelyn Fecteau, who typically does run a couple of races out of the 77 car. JF, my understanding, and that's not direct from him, but what I have been told is that potentially he is not able to make any events this year due to some funding issues, which would be a real shame considering he's somebody that we typically see. I have been told that there is at least one more driver that we'll wait for an announcement for. I don't know who that would be. The only other person that I expect potentially would be Raphael Lessard. He's the only other one I would expect. Brett Taylor is not expected in the number 3 car. That's a bit of a change to his schedule as well. So the 3 won't be here as well, unless, of course, they've made that change and say Raphael Lessard's going to run the 3 instead of the 8, since Courtemanche is here this weekend. So regardless of whether or not we get much more in terms of the entry list for GP3R, the field is incredibly stacked as we head towards this event. It would be very hard to say that this is not the biggest race of the season, but then again, we have Ohsweken coming up a week after. So it's a little bit difficult to say GP3R is still the biggest race. Now, I would say that for the Quebec fans, for Quebec drivers, this is easily the top event. This is their crown jewel, and we are so ecstatic to be taking the podcast there this weekend. We are heading out on Friday at 8 a.m. We're going to drive all the way there to Quebec and be there for the weekend to catch the festivities. Everybody that has been there, everybody that has told us if they were going to go to a race, it is to go to GP3R. Make sure you guys check out the Stickers and Scuffs podcast this week. We will have Dominic Fougere from the GP3R, who's going to be on the show, tell us all about the festivities, all about GP3R, what's so great about it, the history behind it, and what we can expect while we are going to be there. So definitely a fantastic race weekend for GP3R. Trois-Rivières is my favorite racetrack in the NASCAR Pinty Series. It has been for a long time, and it'll be finally cool to be there for the first time and see what it's like with the NASCAR Pinty Series being the headliner, unlike Toronto, where we see the Indy cars are the headliner. I'd love to see this and see what it is like in Montreal and Quebec in general. Really cool event, and we cannot wait to be there. So, obviously, this past week was the 2 races in Saskatoon. Saskatoon was, well, what we expected. I think a little bit more of what Edmonton was, which was excitement, craziness, accidents, point situation, penalties, 2 new winners, veterans leading the way, huge hits. Did I forget anything else? This is what the season has been about this year. There has been some inconsistencies in terms of calls on the penalties side of things, in terms of tech sides of things, but that's, of course, always a part of motorsports. We've seen it on the Cup side. We've seen it in Xfinity. We see it in the Truck Series. This time around, obviously, the NASCAR Pinty Series, where we've got a couple of guys that had penalties for infringements at Edmonton. The 96, of course, was a muffler, an exhaust penalty. You had a driving infringement for Alex Tagliani, and then you had a behavioral infringement for Dave White. So we're not going to dive too much into those, but I'm very excited to see where the series is going to go, because obviously the championship battle is extremely tight as it is. And I definitely would love to see how much further the series is going to go this season. The chaos that we saw in the first 2 races at Saskatoon isn't likely to stop. However, hopefully a lot of the teams and the drivers will have the budget to continue for the rest of the season. We were unable to see a couple of drivers head out west because of this. So hopefully this season, this time around, some more companies will be looking at our series and continue to get some more interest and try and help out. One of those guys that is going to have a new partner on his car at GP3R is the 98 of Sam Fellows with Poly Sleep coming on board. So a new partner coming into the series, that's always exciting because there's more possibilities for when new partners come in that they can get the attention and the eyes of even more people. So when we're at Saskatoon, we had to make sure that things got a little bit crazy. So let's take a look here at our finishing results. And it was one heck of a battle. One of the best finishes to a NASCAR Pinty Series race that I can remember. However, there was a very chaotic and major accident late in the race between Donald Teague and Rafael Lessard that ended up getting Kevin Lacroix, the points leader at the time, involved in this wreck. And of course, he was not alone. All along with him was Brandon Watson, destroyed these cars. But the wrecks prior to that one is what people were talking about. The number 2 of TJ Renamoto, my understanding is there was contact with the 80 of Donald Teague and he got into the wall, and this car, the team has informed me, is destroyed. It is really, really, really hurt. And unfortunately, TJ Renamoto only got 84 laps in the entire weekend before his weekend was done. We'd say weekend, but it was a weeknight. Very, very difficult stuff to see for the number 2 car. TJ Renamoto wasn't running at Edmonton, more than likely because of the carnage that we typically expect there, and unfortunately he got involved. Luckily, RGC Sports did an interview with him after the race and confirmed he was okay. Donald Teague's race did not finish where he was hoping, finishing in 22nd place, and of course Kevin Lacroix, not what he needed in a battle for the championship, whereas his closest rival, Marc-Antoine Cameron, was 3rd. But of course, heading into this race, that's where the question mark lies, because of the penalty assessed 12 points were taken away from the 96. However, because they are appealing it, the points have not officially been taken away. The points will be taken away once the appeal is either accepted or rejected. If it's rejected, obviously the points will be lost. If it is accepted and they win their appeal, they will not lose any points further this season. Wallace Stacey finished 20th, Brian Cathcart 19th, Chantal Kalika 18th in her return to the series. Obviously, she ran at Edmonton, but her return back home. Glenn Steyer's pretty good run, actually, in 17th place on the lead lap. A solid finish for him. He has been new to these cars all season long. Brandon Watson, Rafael Lessard, who was running up in the top 5 in that battle. Gary Clute really struggled in this first race, only managing 14th place. Jamie Krizik was a little bit quiet, actually, in his race in Saskatoon. And how about Mark Dilley finishing in 12th place? For the first start of his career, Matthew Shirley finished 11th. That's a very, very solid start for the young driver of the number 28 for DJK Racing. Hope we get to see a bit more of Matthew Shirley for the full season in the future. LP Dumoulin and Brett Taylor, well, they just kind of had to battle all day long, and out of it came a top 10 finish along with JP Bergeron. Alex Tagliani once again got into some shenanigans in Edmonton with Brandon Watson, but had a solid 7th place finish. And one of the guys that continues to impress and just I was hoping to get a bit more string of finishes together is Dexter Stacey, finishing in 6th place. Very solid run. Of course, EHR cars, man, they're known to do really well, and he continues to lead the season for that team. Trayton Lapsevich fought back with a 5th place finish. Kyle Steckley in his very first NASCAR Pinty Series start finishes in 4th. I think that's a pretty good indication of how he's going to do. And he barely finished fourth, too. He was in third place right until the end of the checkered flag in a battle with Marc-Antoine Cameron. The GM Paillet teams finished 2 and 3. DJ Kennington on the high side in a clean side-by-side battle with Andrew Ranger. DJ Kennington gets the race win, the first of the 125 lappers in a very impressive side-by-side battle with his former teammate Andrew Ranger. Now, as we head to race number 2, there was some question as to whether or not we were going to have a full field of cars because of the damage put to the other race teams. Now, there was a bit of a break between these two races. Luckily, we did get back out. We had 22 cars that took to the track. Unfortunately, the 2-car of Renamato was too damaged and was not able to start the race. But if you thought the order was mixed up before, let's take a look at race number 2. Alex Taglioni was the one who took this race victory. Of course, he got out front and really somewhat dominated the rest of the race. Andrew Ranger, once again, a solid second place finish over LP Dumoulin. How about Rafael Lessard and a good comeback in fourth place? It's his best run of the season so far in the 8, so hopefully that'll continue. Brandon Watson as well, a comeback kid. They didn't change that car. That was the same car that was damaged in the first race. He comes back and finishes in 5th place. DJ Kennington, a solid points day for him, a 1st and a 6th. Kevin Lacroix finishes 7th, and he did use a backup car, so he had to start at the back of the grid. JP Bergeron, who had been struggling the entire weekend, a solid 8th place run. And that's something that I think is being really underappreciated, is how good JP Bergeron has actually really been for a rookie that has never seen these tracks before, hasn't been in the Pinty's cars before this season. Mark Dilley, how about that? Another top 10 for the 64. I think he's managed to get 3 this season so far, and I think the most he had gotten in the last couple of seasons was 4. So he's definitely improved this season. Donald Teague in the second race had set the fastest lap in race 1, which meant he got to start on the pole position. He finishes in 10th place. However, that's not where he was on the last lap. Contact with Lessard, maybe a little bit of payback for the incident that they had earlier in the race, and around goes the 80. Weirdly enough, these two won races together last year. They swept Sunset as Rafael Lessard raced for the 80 car, raced for Donald Teague in the first 2 races, and won for him. Chantal Kalika, how about this story? Finishes 11th. That is her best career finish. An amazing finish for her. Excellent stuff to see her get a top 15 run, finishing just 1 spot out of the top 10. Battled all day long, all weekend long, all the way from Edmonton to Saskatoon. She tried her hardest, but a very solid improvement to finish in 11th place. Kyle Steckley was running up in the top, but bounced off the wall. One of the things that you have to remember in this series is that people will not give you the room. They won't. They'll take anything they can from you. Glenn Stiers, 13th place. That is his best career finish. I absolutely loved seeing this. It was an awesome run by Glenn Stiers. Yes, he may not have finished on the lead lap, but he still improved, and he and Chantal Kalika got their best career finishes. So absolutely impressive for them. Matthew Shirley, an 11th and a 14th in his first 2 starts in the NASCAR Penny Series. Brett Taylor, unfortunately struggling again. Brian Cathcart, 16th. That's actually a pretty good run for him. Normally runs a little bit lower back. Brian's just out here to have some fun. Trayton Lapsevich, again, mechanical failures were the name of the story for the number 20 team. And Wallace Stacy, Jamie Krizik. Not exactly sure what happened to Jamie Krizik to put him a couple laps down. I don't remember there being any contact. Marc-Antoine Cameron, unfortunately, a mechanical failure put him out of the race early. Dexter Stacy and Gary Clute made contact early in the race. It was a side-by-side battle that it cut the tire of the 92. He got into the 59, damaged the suspension. The 92's day was done. 59 came out there, ran a couple more laps, but unfortunately his race was done early as well. And then TJ Renamato did not start the race. So that was our 2 races out in Saskatoon. Side-by-side battle. Murray G says Steckley had a great run Saturday night at Sauble Speedway. Steckley has been a fantastic story this season because he's gone off of, I think it was 4 straight late model wins. He got a top 10 finish, top 5 finish in the Pinty's race. He won an APC Series race actually before that. Then he goes out, gets a top, actually, you look about 2 races actually, even though he finished in the 12th position, still solid runs. He didn't finish last in either of those attempts. Then he goes out and runs with Rick Spencer Walt and a great battle for second place in the APC Series race at Sauble Speedway. I don't know Murray, but I would say that Kyle Steckley, all signs point that he is coming to this series next year. He is in that battle for the championship with J.R. Fitzpatrick in the APC Series, and I wouldn't be shocked if he wins that championship, that he ends up going to the NASCAR Pinty Series full-time in 2023. Obviously, we'll have to see if that is the case, but he's definitely improving so far. I don't think that this is the last time we'll see him as well. I believe he's going to have at least one more start in the NASCAR Pinty Series this season with APC. Winging It was actually really nice to see them on the 22 car as well. The return to the series. They've been with Brett Taylor and Brandon McFarland so far this season. So very solid run so far this season. Now, of all those 2 races that we talked about, there's a lot of stuff that happened. You had one race where Kevin Lacroix had an awful finish and he was at the back. And then the next race, Marc-Antoine Cameron had an awful race and he was at the back. So the contact galore, there was a lot of it. There was rubbing, there was racing, there's been penalties, there's been leading, there's been Andrew Ranger getting hot at the right time. This is something that I think people underestimate and still don't seem to realize. Andrew Ranger is not out of the points championship for the NASCAR Pinty Series. Let's take a look at those point standings right now. So Cameron, again, this points lead is dependent only on them winning their appeal. They are a 7-point lead if they win the appeal. If they are to lose the appeal, they will no longer be in first place. Okay, there's a loss of 12 points there. So they would be behind. However, look at this battle between second, third place. 1 point between Kevin Lacroix and DJ Kennington, second and third in the championship standings. Marc-Antoine Cameron continues to show why he is the championship leader, however, why GM Paillet's team has been the top of the mountain. 672 laps led over Kevin Lacroix with 220. Brandon Watson and Andrew Ranger are in that conversation as well, but there's no catching up right now. The 96 has led the most laps, and it more than likely will wrap up that title. However, if he were to lose those 12 points, he automatically is going to fall. Now, he'll only fall the 2 positions, but it is still going to be a very close battle because now all of a sudden you've got Kennington and Lacroix battling side by side for this championship. Now you bring Alex Tagliani in with LP Dumoulin, both 15 points behind the leaders. Then only 3 points behind him is Andrew Ranger. I'm telling you, 18 points is nothing to Andrew Ranger right now. And now we're going to GP3R. One of Andrew Ranger's best road course races is at this track. Now, that's what's going to be really fascinating this weekend is the entire Quebec contingent can win there. Cameron, Lacroix, Tag, Dumoulin, Ranger, Clute, Bergeron, all of these names, they all could potentially pull it off. Now, GP3R, I think you're looking at a couple of names. Cameron, Lacroix, Tagliani, Dumoulin, Ranger. Those are your top contenders. I don't expect that Villeneuve's going to be up there. I don't really expect that you're going to see Montour up there. They might have good runs, but in terms of winning, I just don't see it. I think your Quebec contingent of drivers, that is who is going to be the toughest. Now, if we're talking who is going to be the best for Ontario, well, I think we can all assume that it is going to be Gary Clute. Gary, by far, has been the standout on the road courses. Now, there is something to bear in mind here, which is Daniel Bois is not at this racetrack. MBS Motorsports has been extremely impressive on their road course program. DJ Kennington, what I expect from him is, now he's won before at Three Rivers. However, I expect that he just wants to be safe and make it out okay. We are going to have a big field here. Now, we haven't seen a lot of contact at this track the last couple of seasons. However, I don't expect that everybody's going to be on their best behavior, especially with how things have been in the last couple of races. We've seen contact with Brandon Watson and almost everybody, it looks like. We've seen contact between Cameron and the field. We've seen Lacroix get into it with people. He and Gary Clute, perfect example. So I wouldn't go out of my way to say that that's not possible. But also something you've got to look in these point standings right now is you got a guy like Rafael Lessard, 13th in the point standings. He's only made 6 races this year, yet he's actually beating guys that have done the full season. So it'd be very interesting to see where we head here. Now, there's other names like Dexter Stacy. He's very good at GP3R. Hopefully he can have a solid run. They have had mechanical problems. At least EHR did with Brett Taylor the last time we were there. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But we'll have to see here. I do think that you're going to have a couple, this is the thing. I look at it and go, we have a great opportunity here to put together a fantastic race. The reality of the situation is, though, you are going to have at least 6 to 7 guys that could win this race easily. And I don't know if they all come out unscathed. We've seen things get a little bit chaotic in the last couple of races. I don't know how. I don't know how we get through it, really. I don't know if people's patience are going to be all the way there. I think there's one question mark, and it's JF Dumoulin. Completely underrated that he could seriously come into this race and dominate. He really could. We've seen how good he is at this racetrack year after year after year. So let's take a look at these extended point standings right now. We've got Cameron, Lacroix, Kennington, Tagliani, Dumoulin, Ranger. Now we get to Ranger and it's 18 points. Then it jumps to 26 points. I'm starting to see the distance between these guys getting a little bit too big for comfort. And I don't know if 26 points, 29 points, 35 points, when we get to, say, Trayton Lapsovich at 35 points out, it doesn't sound like a lot, but remember, there's not a ton of cars in the field that you can get that past all those drivers. Now, we continue on with JP Bergeron sitting 10th in the point standings right now. I would say your champion is already decided within that top 6. I don't think it comes out from any. I don't think anybody is going to be able to come in and replace any of those guys. I would think that if the appeal is won by the 96, and all indications, I mean, I don't know whether it will or it won't, but I would say that all indications between Lacroix and Cameron, they've been the standouts this season so far. Kennington, while he has a win, and so does Tagliani, Ranger, and Lapsovich. Lapsovich just doesn't have the consistency right now. 22 Racing hasn't had the consistency to become the champion, I don't think, this year. You're not going to see a champion from EHR. That's not happening. They're all too far back, unfortunately, so that kind of takes them out of contention. RGC Sports, their championship hopes really are on Brandon Watson and Gary Clute. However, both of those guys had runs where I would have expected a bit more better finishes out of Brandon Watson. And while Watson did fight back, It's the side-by-side contacts. It's the wrecking that is going to come back and be the story for him this year. While he was extremely fast, you got to stay out of the trouble. And I'm telling you guys, 2 straight second place finishes. Andrew Ranger, I'm not saying that all these other guys aren't in the same position here, but with him getting the comfortability that he's showing right now with the 27 team, with White Motorsports, it's dangerous. People, you have to remember, Joe Chisholm Jr. and Andrew Ranger have worked with each other for many years. This is the first season that he's had Caden Lapsevich as his crew chief, and I don't think that that's been an issue. They seem to work really, really well together. White Motorsports, they've had their mechanical issues as well. They had, obviously, issues at Sunset right off the bat where he was completely out of sync. They had issues at CTMP, and they had issues in Newfoundland. So it's not a guarantee that he won't have those again. But if they don't, this field is in trouble. I think Cameron has the field kind of settled. I mean, whatever the situation is there when it comes to the car, there's a lot of conversations from people if there's legal issues with it. At the end of the day, that's on NASCAR. That's the reality. If they work around a rule and manipulate and change things, the reality is that's on NASCAR to catch those mistakes. They're the ones to catch it if something's not legal. If it got by them, it got by them, and people are not going to be happy about it. So the reality is it makes for a messy situation. My buddy Smooth, I'm telling you, Graydon has said this, that he feels that it's Kevin Lacroix's year. It's really hard to say it isn't. I wonder if that contact that he made with Gary Clute will come back to bite him. I don't sense that Gary's the type of guy that would do that because he knows what it could potentially do to him. But now that Gary's back in the championship, maybe he won't. Maybe he won't care. There was a very poignant comment made on Facebook by Raymond Vinot where he said, you've got to watch that 47. And that he could potentially go out and do this without even winning a race. And I'm looking at this going, you know what? LP Dumoulin is 15 points behind. 15. Has it not been the most quiet LP Dumoulin season so far? It's crazy to think that we're at 8 races of 13, and we don't know who's going to win the championship because everything is just so tight. Now, I still believe that Paillet is the favorite. Cameron, right now, has been the top. He has been the best. The team has been the best. Again, putting aside any sort of legality issues, any sort of situational stuff like that, there's a situation here that we have to make sure that people are paying attention to, which is this is their first season. It's going to continue like this, so the rest of the field needs to catch up. I think Andrew Ranger and WMI, they are starting to gel. Kevin Lacroix, yes, definitely. He cannot get caught up in other people's mistakes, and that's what happened at Saskatoon. He was not involved in that wreck with Donald Teague and Lassard. He got into it, but that wasn't his mess. He can't have that happen again. Now, I know Kevin is the type of guy who won't show that type of emotion. He'll show it behind the wheel, but I don't think that he's stressed out. I think with this new and exciting deal with Napa, I think he's going to be motivated. I really would like to put a favorite on for this weekend. However, going to GP3R, we really have no idea. Week in and week out, we know who's the strongest. Cameron obviously is the guy to watch because he's won the most times at Trois Rivières. He knows this circuit like the back of his hand. Big Mac knows. Big Mac definitely knows. But Andrew Ranger knows. LP Dumoulin knows. JF Dumoulin knows. Tagliani knows. It's shocking to me. When you're going to talk about like who's going to win this race, and you're going, holy moly, look at all the names that I talked about. Not only that, you could get somebody like a Trayton Lapsevich that goes out and absolutely kills it in qualifying and pulls off a race victory. Now, is it plausible? It's possible, but it's not something that I would expect to have happen. Same thing with like Gary Clute. Gary Clute is absolutely, positively a great chance for us from Ontario to see somebody go out there and win the race. I mean, we've seen it before. We saw friggin' DJ Kennington win this race before. DJ Kennington will go out and tell you he's not a road course guy. Now, it will be interesting to see whether or not there's carnage. GP3R is a tight circuit. It is. It is something that we don't see. And I would question anybody in the Cup Series that is questioning going to a street course to come and see this race. See Toronto, see this race, because these cars work so well on this type of track. They're so fun to watch. You never know, but Kevin is capable of winning anywhere left on the schedule. Never count out vets like LPs. Sneaky, excellent, and could like the Wick this weekend and go win a points tier. He absolutely could. The other thing that we have to remember too is right after this race is Ohsweken. That's also a major upset for people, because while you're going to have star guys coming into this race, you're going to have a major increase, I believe, in what I'm hearing in the car count. We've heard as high as 30. We have no idea how these guys are going to be on the racetrack. For all we know, Cameron could go out there and be the worst car on the racetrack. Lacroix could be the worst car on the track at Ohsweken. From my understanding, there's heats to get into the main event. Can you imagine if one of the points guys doesn't make that final, doesn't make it into the main race? It's entirely possible that you could have a race like that where we don't even have a points leader in the final. That's how unpredictable it's going to be. You had somebody in there like a Christopher Bell, Ken Schrader, Stuart Friesen. They don't care about the points championship here. I would hope that they respect it, but they're out there to win the race. So if it becomes between them and the rest of the field, they're not going to care. The other thing to remember is a lot of people forget a lot of these great road course ringers, they're really good on dirt as well. Dexter Stacy won a race in dirt this past year against other Pinty Series guys. Rafael Assard does both. He does dirt and does the paved ovals. I believe Cameron's done some dirt. Ranger's done dirt. You have guys that have raced on ice. Very similar, but a little different. I guess that's the next thing that we'll throw out the Pinty Series competitors is going to be ice racing. The field really is going to be very interesting at the end of this, because we're going to know who is in this battle heading into a major stretch of 2 road courses and then Delaware. You have a dirt race. I can't really say that the dirt, like this is when we think about, you have to be good at so many different disciplines. In the last couple of, you have a street race, you have a dirt race, you have a temporary airport circuit. I don't even know if it's an airport circuit anymore. You have iCar, flat surface. Then you have CTMP. And then you go to Delaware. You have to be good in almost every single one of those races if you want to win the championship. Right now, there hasn't been somebody that has been amazing in every single race, because every single person that's been up in the top 5 has had a problem. We can't have that, obviously, week in and week out, but what we're hoping for is a battle for this championship that will go right down to the end of the wire here. And it's looking that way. I think a little bit of the steam has been taken out. I'm not going to lie. I think there's been a little steam taken out with penalties that have been announced, with domination. That can happen, right? When you've got guys that are going out and killing everybody else, yeah, that can do it. Let's see what we got here. So Wes says they've got lots planned for practice. 2 practice sessions planned on Monday and Tuesday. Also seeing the NASCAR closed practice August 9th at Ohsweken. CJC says, I used to race on ice in Quebec during the Winter Carnival. So CJC, I ask you, is it actually plausible? Could we do this? Could the NASCAR Pinty Series do an ice race in the future? I mean, you've got to go to Quebec for it. Obviously, that's the place to go. You go all the way out west, but I think the majority of the series is going to be out in Quebec. But I would love to see it. I honestly think, what else can't we do, right? The other thing I was thinking about too is, and I'm going to put this out to the people that are watching right now, is 2 races the right move when we go to Saskatoon? Or should we just do the 1 race? I'm very curious about this one because I'm like, why do we do 2 races? Why would we not want to do 1 and just do a 300 lapper? Is it just because it's too much on the equipment? I mean, you're still doing the same amount. Let's say you do that and then you add in another race. You do 1 race in Edmonton, 1 race in Saskatoon. You come back, and instead we have a 14th race added to the schedule for next year. It's very interesting. I mean, we do 2 races out there. Add in the 1 for Edmonton. Is 2 125 lappers the right move? Should we just do the 1 250 lapper itself? Add in a 14th race. See, Murray, I love that idea. Last fall, we had 2 races at Delaware. I know that the reason why they did that last year, but to me, would you want to have 2 races that last weekend? I mean, we're possibly getting the biggest field that we'll have at Delaware this year. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like people are going to treat this like it was for Jukasa. It's become a big deal. You show up for the finale if you run out west or run out east. I would like to see it. I mean, I would love it, honestly. Now, but at the same time, Murray, I'd also like to see Delaware twice a year. It's going to be a very interesting topic because, Murray, we've also seen, and I've asked this before, there's no Flamborough, there's no Montmagny, there's no Riverside. You know, that would be nice to see multiple events again. But again, what you could theoretically do that for every race we went to, every racetrack. You do 100 lapper. You could do sprint races for each of them. I don't know where the benefit is. I know a lot of people wanted to do that. They wanted to get back to the original 250 to 300 lappers. There hasn't really been consistency on whether or not they're running a 300 or 250. I guess it just depends on the racetrack. But to me, I want to see Flamborough and Peterborough back on the schedules. I think they offer a lot, even though they're maybe a little more run down than, say, some of the newer facilities. I think Ohsweken, obviously, we know that that's going to come back. Chaudier, they offer a lot. To me, Eastbound Park, that whole situation it's going to have to be a little bit more than just the 1. I think, and that's the one thing I see my pops in the chat here saying that the features should be earlier than 10 p.m. I agree. I know they're trying to make a big deal about this event, but at the end of the day, you're not going to get casual viewers staying up past 10 o'clock to catch it, and which could be a caution-filled race, mind you. So if you have a situation like myself and my dad, who travel 2 hours to get to the racetrack, race doesn't start till 10 o'clock, you could potentially be delayed all the way and finish not until 1 o'clock. Then you've got to travel 2 hours home. That's like 3 a.m. by the time you're getting home. Not a lot of people are going to want to do that. That's going to be a tough sell for the future, but I mean, I know why they're doing it, is they're trying to use, and this is what I appreciate about Ohsweken doing this, is that they are using this as a platform to also showcase their weekly dirt racing the day before. I mean, Wes would know that the dirt racing in Ohsweken is getting a boost by having the Pinty series there. It's not that it needs it. It has a very, very, very big crowd, but it's giving it a bigger platform. G-Force is even going to have a bigger platform by being able to stream So there is going to be more coming out of this than just this small track. So if I'm saying that if we're going out for Newfoundland, there's an opportunity there to go to Riverside. Maybe you go to Scotia Speed World. Build it so that you're not going for just one event. I mean, it seems like a crazy amount of time to go all the way out there for one event, and I know it was a lot of there was a lot of money put towards it, but at the end of the day, if it's not enough take home for the teams and the drivers, they're not going to go back. That's the reality. So the point standings, kind of as we sit here, we're idle as we head to GP3R this weekend. We don't know what's going to happen with the penalties and the appeals for the 96 team. Obviously, behavioral and driving infringements is a little bit different. Those are penalties. Obviously, we have a crew chief that was suspended for the races in Saskatoon. He'll be back for GP3R. I expect the 96 will be the car to beat. The 96-27. I don't know who else. I mean, obviously Dumoulin. Like, it's so tough between that top five. So, it'll be very interesting when we head out there to find the experience GP3R and see kind of what comes out of it. And then you've got, like I said, you've got 4 races after that with Ohsweken, ICAR, CTMP, and Delaware. You've got dirt, flat, elevated road course, and of course Delaware being Delaware. I look at it and go like, man, what an amazing season that we've already had, and what an amazing season it'll continue to be. But we're going to really battle right down to the wire here in who's going to win this championship. It is going to be a huge battle between the rest of this top 5. I don't think anybody's coming out of the, to come back and do something crazy. I think the guy that you got to watch, again, like I said, Andrew Ranger is getting hot at the right time. LP Dumoulin, we have Gary Clute, who's the smiling assassin. I think it is the silent assassin in LP Dumoulin, that's for sure. We're heading 7:55 here at our current time, so we head right to 8 o'clock. I want to make sure that you guys make sure to point out and follow the NASCAR Pinty Series community Facebook group. We have reached 5.1K. We're excited about that. I've got a cat chewing on things, so I'm trying to make sure she stops doing that while I'm trying to do this. Continue to grow that and pass it on to more and more people. We really appreciate it. It's not a place to come in and can just complain about everything. You do that in your own Facebook. We are there to continue to support and love the series. Continue to post stuff week in and week out. We've got some very good stuff that we want to make sure that we share from GP3R, some driver content, which will be a lot of fun to do. And then in the off season, we hope to have maybe some contests and some interviews as well, so that people can connect with their favorite NASCAR Pinty Series drivers. Continue to try and get more and more attention to the series each and every week. Of course, we see an increase in viewership each time that we have the series out on the racetrack, TSN, and Flow Racing. I'm very curious to see how the numbers are going to do this year. One of the things, obviously, that people have mentioned a lot about is the live timing and scoring being a problem. I've dealt with that myself this year, so I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do that. Too bad Larry Jackson does not have the money for Quebec. He could add lights and siren and have everybody pull over. It's true, for sure. Yeah, Larry is going to try to get out there. I expect that he might just get out there and try to take it easy and not damage the car. Unfortunately, his race in Toronto did not last very long. So, and his teammate Matthew Scannell will not be there, unfortunately, because they couldn't get funding as well. So, when I talked to Matthew about it, obviously he's disappointed, but as he has told me before, their big race is CTMP, so they want to make sure that they're extremely competitive for that. Obviously, we've got a couple of races still on the schedule that will be a lot of fun. It'd be very interesting to figure out if we're going to get any other surprises for Ohsweken. We really don't know who it's going to be, if anybody. There's very much a possibility that we could see Kenny Wallace in this race. I know he was one of the names rumored previously. And you don't know if there's somebody that they just haven't bothered to announce yet. I know that we have a couple of Ohsweken locals like Dave Bailey, who I expect to be very good. He's going to be in Dave Jacobs' equipment. He'll be out there for the race. Aaron Turkey was announced, I believe, on G-Force that he would be out there, or at least somebody announced it. I don't know if it was supposed to be announced. I know that Randy Slack was working on a Pinty's car. Not sure if he was going to be driving or somebody else. And obviously Glenn Stiers. I think Glenn's going to have a couple of guys. We know Christopher Bell, Stuart Friesen, and Kenny Schrader are all confirmed. One of those might be in the 80 car. We know the 64 is going to be for Christopher Bell. The 26 more than likely for Stuart Friesen. I would expect DJ Kennington will have somebody in his 28 car, which typically will run. I would think at least that's what's going to happen. But we'll have to wait and find out. We will be back next Monday to talk all about it once again. It'll be the races at GP3R. Not sure if we'll be doing a show live next week because I'll be coming back from GP3R quite late. But we will be here to talk about it whenever we decide to. And then, of course, we got the Ohsweken race on August 16th. So definitely, guys, thank you so much for tuning in once again. Thank you for being a part of the show. Thank you, G-Force, Adam, Clinton, Spencer, for all you guys do. We really appreciate it. The NASCAR Penny Series, Sherry and the entire team, Caitlin, for all of her help and hospitality. Our good friends, Adam Ross, as well, being a part of the broadcast. Really appreciate every single one of you guys tuning in. We will catch you all next week on the NASCAR Penny Series Power Hour